Now, I'm delighted to say we're joined in studio by PGA Tour golfer and Softco brand ambassador Troy Merritt. Troy, you're very welcome to Off the Ball.
Yeah, pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me.
It's nice to see that you've come prepared for a decent 9 holes at least as well. So, at least it happens to break out somewhere in the studio over the course of the next while. It'll be all fixed.
We got a chance to play yesterday on a proper Irish day, in the mist and the cool. And today it's a beautiful day outside and we're not on the course.
Where did you get to play yesterday?
We played down at Dunleary. Yeah, 18 of the 27 holes.
Is that because obviously you're kind of in between kind of things at the moment with the way the PGA Tour schedule has worked out, do you use your family time to go off and get a quick few holes in here and there to use holidays as an excuse to play the kinds of courses that you wouldn't normally get to play month in and month out?
Oh man, when we're not, normally when I'm not playing on the PGA Tour, I'm at home. I get to be a husband and a father. My family doesn't travel really at all, with the exception maybe a week or two each year. So the only reason I'm really actually over here is I played the Aussie PGA last November and I bought European Tour affiliate status, and I felt I needed to play a few more, and we had just that little break between the FedEx Cup finals and the start of the new season, and I was lucky enough to get into the Swiss Open and the Porsche last week in Germany, or 2 weeks ago in Germany, and then Amsterdam last week, and got to come see my friends at Softco here for 2 days here. It's my first trip to Dublin, and I have to say I will be making a return journey.
Yeah, what have you made of it so far?
Man, it's been a lot of fun. I've noticed anywhere we go outside of the States, the food is so much better. The people tend to be a lot nicer. So it's nice to be outside. And Dublin's, we've had no shortage of good food and nice people.
It's nice, I guess, to step off that roundabout, because you talked there that your family only join you, once or twice in terms of weeks on the road. You spend an awful lot of time on the road. You're kind of on that treadmill constantly, and it's something that you, in a weird way, get used to in a kind of a Stockholm syndrome kind of way. So it's nice to take a break and play these other tournaments and get that European Tour affiliate status and all that kind of stuff.
I mean, you're absolutely right. Yeah, I'm on the road about 30 weeks a year on average. Yeah, they come out once or twice, and you kind of get stuck in that same carousel of the same tournaments. You go to the same city, so it's nice to break that habit, especially coming across the Atlantic here and seeing you all over here in Europe. And I haven't been to a poor spot in my couple trips over here, and like I said, Dublin's just another one that I've enjoyed thoroughly.
We can tick you off for the Irish Open come next summer. That's what they're doing, a Troy Merritt Irish Open 2020.
Yeah, we were just talking about that. I'd love to get into an Irish Open, a Scottish Open. I have played the Dunhill Links once and the French Open once, but there are several others that I'd love to play, and it's just, it gets tricky. I'm trying to make a career on the PGA Tour. I'd love to come over and play here more often, but the schedules don't ever line up.
Scheduling seems to have become an awful lot trickier recently, especially with that condensing of the majors into that kind of really narrow window in the summer, and everything else obviously leads up to the FedEx and Tour Championship, etc. But there was a time when you could probably happily marry the two tours and find a way to pursue both of them. But I guess Rory McIlroy is the case in point, where he said, no, listen, I just have to concentrate on this. You again are saying that PGA Tour is probably the one that you'll have to concentrate on, particularly when you have to marry that in terms of family.
Yeah, especially, living over in the States and having PGA Tour status, it's nice to be able to play over there and have that opportunity. But my rookie year back in 2010, the schedule was vastly different. We finished in September, and then you really didn't have to play again until January, because there were no more FedEx Cup tournaments. We had 4 or 5 fall events, but it was purely just for the money list. It had nothing to do with points. And now that we've gone away from the only way you keep your card is based on points versus money list, all those fall events, they kept them around by making them full events. You get your points, and then we've gone from 4 or 5 of those to I think we have 11 this fall, and there's just no more break anymore. So guys used to be able to come over and play in October or November, September even, and play a few events. But now you really can't do that if you want to be able to compete over on the PGA Tour, because guys are playing in so many more events, and you have to have so many more points these days just to keep your card. It's very cutthroat over there, and you just have to take that advantage and see what you can do over there. And if you get the rare opportunity to come over here, you take it then.
Do you see it as a positive or a negative, the way it's gone now?
Money's easy to keep track of. If you come straight down the money list, it's very easy. The point system seems like it's changed a number of times in the 10 years that we've had the FedEx Cup system. And I get it. You got to sell something for sponsors. It's a business. It's driven by money, and I get it. But it's just easier to keep track of money in my personal preference. But it is what it is. You go with what you have.
Speaking in terms of money, 2019 was your second best year, I believe, in terms of money, but the fewest tournaments you've played. And that was all down, I don't want to say all down, but at least partially down to the fact that in the great tradition of Prince, you've had a rib removed.
Yeah.
That's not for the same reasons, let's just stipulate that.
Last summer 2018, I had played all summer, not being able to raise my left arm over my head without being in excruciating pain. It would swell up, come down, swell up, come down, and I had to keep playing to try to keep my card because I was just outside the top 125. And when I won Barbasol, I could barely lift it at all, but I could make a golf swing. I mean, it hurt, but I could swing it. And after I'd won, I played Canada, and then my wife made me go in and see the doctor when I got home, and they diagnosed me with a rather large blood clot running from my chest down to my left elbow. So I had that removed. I was somehow able to play the PGA Championship the week after that, and I was diagnosed with a condition called thoracic outlet syndrome, which typically Major League Baseball pitchers over in the States get more often than most people. And basically what it is the top rib and the clavicle are too close together. In my case, it pinched the vein and caused a blood clot. So instead of being on blood thinners for the rest of my life, I opted to have that top rib taken out to open up that space. And it was supposed to be a 3 to 6 month recovery time. I played the Players about 7 weeks after I had surgery, and then I sat out another 5 weeks because I had some family stuff planned because I didn't plan on getting back that fast. But yeah, I quite enjoyed having the limited schedule, the 2021 events.
Was that, when you said you're thinking of getting back out there so close after the surgery, what did the family think? What were your doctors thinking? What was your caddy thinking? Were they saying, listen, Troy, just take the rest while you can? I
had a really good physical therapist, and he and my doctor both agreed that I was capable and ready to go play golf again. Okay. But they did not clear me to lift any weights, to even go for a jog, but they allowed me to play golf. My wife, it took a lot more convincing, and I kind of joke with her a little bit that about 4 weeks after I played in the Players, we bought a new home and moved houses. So I kind of joke that it cost me a whole house to go play in the Players Championship last year.
When you're first diagnosed with that blood clot, is that a scary thing? Because some people get diagnosed with blood clots and it stops them dead in their tracks, and it becomes a really worrisome thing. You seem to, from what I've read, just kind of let this, I don't want to say fester, it's probably the wrong word to use, but it definitely progressed to the point where you couldn't ignore it anymore and it had to be acted upon.
Well, I mean, it got to the point where, I dealt with the pain, and having played several other sports growing up, there's a difference between playing injured and playing hurt. I mean, if you're banged up a little bit, always give it a go. I always felt that way, and I could still make a golf swing, and like I said, I had to keep my job, but by the time I got back home that week, my arm had doubled in size, was purple from the shoulder all the way down to the fingertips, and my wife finally said, you need to go in and see the doctor. And I said, honey, it's the PGA Championship next week. I think I can give it a go. I mean, it's really going to hurt, but she's like, no, you need to go in and see. And I'm glad she did. And when they first diagnosed me, it was kind of tough to hear that, but at least I finally had an answer as to why I was in so much pain for 2 months, and I'd never had any kind of surgery before, so I didn't know what to expect, what was coming. So I just had to take it for what it was, let the doctors do what they were there for, and everything worked out just fine. Yeah,
I know the way the vein obviously was being trapped between the collarbone and your rib. Was there any trepidation? Did you need to be just 100% convinced before you agreed to the surgery that, listen, this isn't going to affect your golf swing, you're going to be able to build it up just fine the way it is, it's not going to affect your putting, your chipping, anything like that? You're going to be the Troy Merritt that arrived into the hospital heading out of it?
When I elected to have that surgery, I saw one of the top 2 guys in the States that performs basically just those surgeries, and he kind of wrote the book on it back in the early 90s. I had seen a doctor in Idaho that wasn't a specialist in that area. He said he did 2 or 3 a year, and when he listed off some of the complications that could arise from it, I was pretty much thinking that I was never going to play golf again. And when I talked to Dr. Pearl down in Dallas, he assured me that it's very routine. He's done over 1,500 of them. He does 200 a year. I said, okay, I'm going to come and see you. And sure enough, I came out, my swing has been much better ever since I had that rib out for whatever reason.
Does it free up? Does it, give us a sense of the sensation if you can do?
Yeah, the last, 10 years or so, when I'd get to the top of the backswing, I'd be kind of tight in that area, kind of up the neck and then down into the chest a little bit, and it caused me to be just a little bit quick at the top of the swing, and as a result, I'd miss a lot of shots right, and for whatever reason, you took that rib out, and I was so much freer at the top. I could take my time, nice smooth tempo, and as a result, I had my best ball striking year of my career. Wow. So hopefully that just continues. I hope I don't have to give another rib to have another good season, but if that's the case, I could probably do it.
It'd be very biblical of you if you managed that as well. But I'm just wondering, on that front, you mentioned that it's a pitcher's injury traditionally is how it happened. Did this happen because essentially of the way you won the golf club, or was this just happen because of your physiology?
So what I learned is that it's basically just repetition and anatomy. It's just, I've played golf, I've been swinging a club for over 30 years, and it's just the way that I'm built. And it's nothing that, I wasn't making poor swings. Golf wasn't, the cause of it. I could have had another career. I could have been a dental hygienist, cleaning teeth, and had my arms up all the time and still ran into that issue potentially. So it is what it is. It is an athlete's disease, so now I can officially say that I am an athlete, and nobody can say otherwise.
Exactly, yeah. The one thing that's kind of struck me from talking to you is you mentioned, you had to keep your job in terms of being out there on the tour. There seems to be a sense of obligation in terms of getting back out there. Like, do you come from a kind of a workman-like background like that? Is the idea of working and supporting the family a very big thing to you?
My parents are school teachers. I grew up in a very small town in southern Idaho, 9,500 people, farming community. And
Osage, was it? Or Osage County?
What's that? Sorry?
Osage County, was that it?
In Idaho?
No, in Idaho, sorry.
Yeah. And you worked for everything, and it didn't ever feel like, work. But we were taught that, if you want something, you have to practice, you have to go out, you have to earn it, nothing's going to be given to you. And, I can't say the same thing for a lot of my colleagues. They had, a little better circumstances growing up and had maybe a little bit of an easier path. Not to say like, getting to the PGA Tour, there's an easy path, but I was never given anything. I always had to work for it, I always had to prove myself. And it's been like that on the PGA Tour, and it should be. You should have to prove, how good of a player you are if you're not just to keep your card and compete, but to also win. And it's been a fairly successful career.
Yeah. Do you still get a sense of that out on course, or out on tour, I should say, even that certain people have been through golf academies and that they've been groomed for this since the age of 4, and on and on and on. But there are others like yourself that have had to scrap and claw and work and go through the web.com tours and make the way up to where you have done.
Yeah, I was speaking with some juniors yesterday down at Dunleary, and they're asking me, kind of background and what kind of advice you give for kids that want to pursue not just golf, but maybe a professional sport and something else. And I said, you have fun. Don't just play one sport. If you're able and you're good enough, play a few sports. Enjoy your childhood. If you happen to get good enough at one of them, then maybe think about pursuing it then. But just enjoy it. You have to remember that there are billions of people in this world. There are tens of thousands of people that are good enough to play on the PGA Tour, on the European Tour. But it's just those who have been able to play well at the right time and have been able to stay out there that the ones you see all the time. But there are a ton of people that could do what I do for a living, and you just have to sit back and think. You have to enjoy it. I have to work hard, but I have to enjoy it because I'm very, very lucky.
It is a brilliant way to look at it. That kind of attitude is going to keep you, I think, well stocked in terms of how you perform tournament in and tournament out during the year.
When I was a kid, my biggest dream was to be a garbage man. So I still have that as my retirement plan, to be a garbage man.
Yeah, it's something to fall back on.
Yes, sir.
No doubt. Although if the start of the movie Commando teaches me anything, it's not always the easiest way to make a living. But you came from a very sporting background. Like, your brothers were involved in Division 3 baseball and basketball, I think, wasn't it?
Yeah, my dad and his brothers were very good athletes. My dad played basketball and baseball when he was in school, Division 3 school, and coached afterwards while he taught. And my 2 younger brothers, one played football and one played basketball in college, and one of them's a coach now and teaches, and they love sports. We come from a very competitive family. But also, you have to work hard to get what you get, and None of us ever thought that professional sports would be a career for any of us. But yeah, he's kind of, I guess, kind of one up on him and prove him wrong and let him know that one of us made it.
Where did the golf thing come from then? Because if it's a very American sports-centric house.
Yeah, you know, when I was a kid, I grew up, like I said, in a small town over there in the States, and my dad was a school teacher and had summers off, and he was just kind of picking up the game himself, and there wasn't anything else to do. You know, you were always outside. The golf course seemed like a pretty good spot. It was either that or float the river or go to Dairy Queen. So I'd rather be at the golf course, and I just really enjoyed it. You know, like I said, I played a lot of other sports growing up, but yeah, golf for a 6-foot skinny white kid with limited athletic ability is the one that stuck.
Yeah, but it's beyond being a 6-foot skinny, you know, unathletic kid, and you joked about not being an athlete and this surgery finally making you one. Like, it seems like the most complex of sports as well, because there are others within this building who are more, you know, steeped in golf than I would be, and even the way that they talk about it on a purely amateur level seems a way more technical way than you'd speak about playing Gaelic football, or you'd speak about playing soccer, you'd speak about playing, I don't know, softball, baseball, whatever. It just seems there's a lot more involved in the very minutiae of it.
You know, it's one of those sports, one of the very few that you can make your best swing and be in the best position and hit the best shot you can and have it end up in a terrible spot. You know, you could hit a pure drive, get down there, end up in a nice big divot in the middle of the fairway. You can hit an approach shot you think is right at the pin, land on a sprinkler head, bounce over the green, maybe in the water. You just never know what that golf ball is going to do until it's come to rest, and it's a game that cannot be perfected. There's so many different ways to play it. It's, you know, I joke, it's like playing or using a giant jigsaw puzzle, you know, trying to get around the golf course sometimes. And no matter how well you do, I mean, you can go out and hit 13 out of 14 fairways, 17 out of 18 greens, and shoot 3 over par because you don't putt well one day. And the next thing you come out, you hit 3 out of 14 fairways, 6 out of 18 greens, and shoot 5 under par because you've scored really well. It's just, it's a game that'll never be mastered. I hate it. I love it. It's a very stupid game. And you have to understand that. I mean, if you go in there thinking that you're going to master this and you're going to be the best player in the world, well, the game owes you nothing. I mean, it will take the very best out of you, and it will kick you to the curb and have no issues doing it.
What's 20? Like, do you have goals set aside for 2020? Like, obviously playing more tournaments. I was going to say playing more tournaments is probably going to be the goal, but after hearing you mention you're already 21, you know, especially after winning $1.5 million, you know, it's okay.
I joke with my agent, I'm usually kind of around the 29 events a year area, but I think, you know, having a really good year this year and having the most top 10s I've ever had in a season, probably just play a little bit less. 2021 sounds pretty good, but no, I learned several years ago, I had set some goals for the year, and I had a good year, but I achieved very few of those goals. So it almost felt like I failed on that season, even though it was a really solid one. So I don't set goals anymore. I know that if I take care of business and I play well and I do what I'm supposed to do, good things will happen. And, you know, and it's not necessary to set really high, lofty goals and not achieve them. And think that you've had a bad year when really, I mean, you might have a win, you know, you might have a nice high finish, but you don't, let's say, make a Ryder Cup team. You know, I get there's a little bit of disappointment, but good play will always take care of itself. Good play will lead to a win. It might lead to a higher world ranking, might lead to a Ryder Cup, but I'm not going to lose any sleep over not ever playing on a Ryder Cup team. Who
did you vote for in the PGA Tour Player of the Year?
I read it as Player of the Year. I felt that Rory McIlroy had a better year, and so I voted for him.
I was just going to say that your outlook on how you should approach the year seems to tally a lot with how he said about this year, and a lot of people said maybe that because he didn't win a major, because he didn't win a certain number of, you know, high-level ranking tournaments, that he maybe didn't deserve it compared to a Brooks Koepka. But that level of consistency, like, you know, and other golfers know, and everybody, you know, people steeped in sport would know, that level of consistency is probably the hardest thing to achieve, other than...
I mean, especially this day and age. I mean, with the talent level being so deep on the PGA Tour, and, you know, let's say 20 years ago, you show up on Thursday and you think, you know, there's 8 to 10 guys that have a chance to win this tournament, and if Tiger's in the field, there's 3 guys that have a chance to win the tournament, where Now, if you show up, you think 25 to 35 guys have a chance to win the tournament, and there's another 15 to 20 that, if they play well, are going to be there on the weekend as well. So to have the year that Rory had, I think 16 top tens, had the couple wins, won the FedEx Cup, that was a very, very good year. Yeah, he didn't win a major, but I don't think the year is based on winning a major championship.
What are the things you mentioned you hated about the game? Is like a speed of play kind of an issue with you? Is that one of your bugbears, or is it just...
That is a little bothersome. I mean, I've had to speed up a little bit on the greens. I used to take a little bit too much time, kind of in the 50-second range. I've got it back down to just under 40 seconds, which is passable. But what really bothers me is when you've got a guy that it's not their turn to play, so they're standing there at their ball, you've played, the other partner's played, and it's their turn, and now they're going to get their yardage. Now they're going to start thinking about the win. Now they're going to start thinking about what's going on, and it takes 2, 3, 4 minutes, and that is it ruins the game. It really does. You just want to keep things going and find a good rhythm, and I can't stand it when guys do that.
Do you let it be known to them on course?
I'm sorry?
Do you let it be known to them on course? Did you not please?
As I've been getting older, I start to walk ahead a little bit, thinking, we need to make this happen a little bit quicker. This is ridiculous.
It's dropping hints in a very subtle way.
Very subtle hits. I mean, I'm not one for controversy. I don't like to be involved in any kind of vocal spats, but I will walk ahead and say, we need to move this thing along.
It's a solid plan, if nothing else. What else have you got planned while you're here?
I'm just here the rest of the afternoon. I got to spend the day here yesterday, and then I'm headed home back to the States early tomorrow morning. Like I said, I've been over here for 3 weeks. I'm going to go home, see my wife and kids for about 5 days, and then get my PGA Tour season started. I mean, they started last week in West Virginia at the Greenbrier. They're in Jackson, Mississippi this week, and I'll start next week at the Safeway Open in Napa, California. I wish you the very best with it. You're here as a Softco US brand ambassador, and for more information on Softco, the leading global provider of P2B smart automation solutions, you can go to softco.com. Troy Merritt, thanks so much for coming in. Yeah, I appreciate it. Thanks for having me. Cheers.